In electronic health record space, we collect so much data on patients. We don't use very much of it. About, it was probably 5 or 6 years ago, Microsoft examined the amount of information that we collected from electronic health records and how much we used. We used about 3 or 4% of the data that we collected. It's higher now than it was back then, but it was very little. What electronic health records are able to do to us is what you're implying. I'm a little bit avoiding your question about social media, but it's about data collection and using data to identify challenges. So in electronic health records, because we collect so much data, it identifies problems that the human, because there's so much data, can't pull out all of it. So Jeff may come in regularly and see your primary care provider or your specialist, and all this data is collected. But because each of those visits are for a very specific purpose, for an isolated instance, for an isolated issue, all those pieces aren't put together. However, with large language models and artificial intelligence, can accumulate all that together and identify an issue that wouldn't have been identified otherwise. And that is going to become, or is becoming, really helpful in that, oh, you know what? The trend in Jeff's issues of those separate visits to these separate providers identified issue X, not issue Y or Z that he saw these other providers for. So that is actually going to be a very future-oriented, very helpful tool, actually currently helpful tool that's already being leveraged.
How many times do you go to a doctor and the person wheels in and he or she looks and goes like, okay, and they're just now, you're just now reading this, aren't you? Okay, Jeffrey, it looks like, I can tell you're just now with me reviewing stuff.
Yeah.
And I can tell that you're on an 18-minute clock and you got to get out of here. So you're not really, you're just trying to get up to speed. You don't really know what's going on with me.
Yeah.
And to your point, to your point, the large language model, the chat, whatever, could say, when you walk in, ask him this question. Now, Jeff, you've had some issues with acid reflux, and you are now ask him this question, and I can read that question, and interesting, and so that will help the doctor keep up with his or her busy rounds, but also use, as you say, all of this data that we are not mining to its full extent.
Yeah, or they don't want to. Thing that has to be careful, and this also be identified to not dumb down the providers, and that decrease in their decision making capacity, and that it'll do things like note Jeff went into acute care 2 weeks ago for the complaint of this. How does that tie into the clinical picture? Jeff went into the ER up in Watertown 3 weeks ago with this issue. How does that tie into the clinical picture? So that the clinician can see all of the aspects of what's going on in Jeff's picture, to help correlate all of those aspects of Jeff's real entire health picture to make a better clinical decision. Because the clinical decision still is the clinician. It's not a computer's not going to do that, because that's not what you want. I think evidence is going to show that the computer is not, or the AI is not the tool that we want to do that. We want the AI to make sure and grab all the relevant information that we may miss in the large screen, in the large picture, and in Jeff's entire data set, but not to make the decision for the clinician so that they're too focused on this one issue that the AI says we think we should look at.